Hello and welcome to the Easily Excitable podcast. This will be the last solo one that I do. It's episode 199. Last one is next week, episode 200. And I just wanted to kind of recap what's happened over the last 6 years, what I've learned, what I feel like I've improved in, and just give some general thoughts as to what's gone on. So I started with community notes and then Topham Chats. Did 100 episodes of Topham Chats. Can't remember exactly how many episodes of community notes. I think it was 13 or 14. And then I moved on to the Easily Excitable podcast for, as of next week, will be 200 episodes. And so at the beginning of this year, I kind of decided that I want to bring it to a close. As I knew that this year would have a lot in store. It's kind of been a crazier year than I was even anticipating, with the ski trip and travelling back over to the UK, getting a job, and just being a part of a band as well, trying to write all music there, and it's just kind of all changed. With all the virus stuff going on as well, I find myself not necessarily with more time outside of work, considering I wasn't working earlier in the year, and it's just all kind of been a weird strive for balance, which I've been writing about on Tuesdays in my journals. Over the last 6 years, things were strange. So I started the podcast in what would have been 2014. We recorded episode 44 of the podcast with Rachel. It was the first time really chatting to her outside of group call. And then we met up in the summer of 2015. And we've been a couple, got engaged, married since. And so the podcast kind of tracked that relationship too, because definitely after episode 50 of the podcast, I started having repeat guests on, of Topham Chats, that was. And then it started becoming more conversational, and rather than the interview style that I started off with. I definitely learned from the interview style as well as what questions to ask, but the more the conversations went on and the more time I spent investing in trying to figure out what to talk about each week, the more it became clear that the podcast needed to change into what eventually it became as a conversational podcast. I definitely have changed a lot as well. I'm very aware of that. I've evolved, I've got better, I don't know if I've got smarter. That's not really a thing I'm too keen on thinking about, to be honest. But there's definitely things that have changed and evolved where I was working. I became a manager in charge of quality control, then quality assurance, and then quality environmental and health and safety. I got to go to Amsterdam on a trip. I got to visit Heerlen, which is another place in the Netherlands, and be part of the European quality team. Actually, there I didn't have the best of times because they were quality control isn't quality assurance, and I was trying to learn all the stuff about quality assurance, and it was kind of disheartening at the time. But I certainly showed them when I turned up for auditing training, and I was getting praise from my bosses saying I was doing a great job, and the fact that I was being recognised significantly was great as well. Across the company as well, it was good. And I evolved there. I learned so much stuff, and the podcast kind of taught me a lot about communicating, how essential it is to communicate, and the job also ties in with this. So I can't attribute one or the other to what I'm doing. I can definitely attribute the fact that I'm better writing and better at scripting things to the podcast and to the fact that I've been writing. I started this podcast about 4 or 5 months after I started writing daily as well. So as time's gone on, and especially in the last 100 episodes where I did alternate weeks between having a guest and doing it on my own, I've definitely understood more as to how my writing can impact what I'm saying and how I need to think things out, think things through, and what kind of voice I need to use when I'm writing for a podcast where I'm going to be talking, or where I'm writing for a journal like I do daily. And so that's great. I feel, I don't know what I've done more, but I'm definitely listening to more podcasts now that I'm working again, and I'm driving more as well because I've got a 45-minute commute. And so that's kind of encouraging me to listen to more podcasts, which is enjoyable. I still enjoy listening to podcasts. I do enjoy doing the podcast, but at this point in time, I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, okay, I want to bring it to an end. I'm happy with where it's at. I don't feel like I'm getting as much benefit out of it as I was in the past. And there's definitely been more capacity and capability of me to reach out to friends and chat and play with them. And I've started doing that over the last few weeks, getting involved with people that I've not necessarily been good about catching up with outside of podcast time. So I'm definitely trying to focus on that and just bring that into things that I need to do and want to do regularly. So that's definitely helping me out right now in terms of finding peace with ending the podcast as well. It's been an interesting 6 years of podcasting. I'm happy with what I've done. I'm happy with how the podcasts have evolved and where I've ended up. I'm very happy with the progress I have found in choosing the right words, trying to increase my vocabulary. Okay, yes, still I do talk with relatively simple, basic vocabulary. There are words that I like using when I'm speaking to people, although that's majority come from what I'm writing and thinking about not using the same words again and again. So yeah, that's it. 6 years of podcasting has kind of led to this moment where I'm like, I'm happy with what I've done over the past 6 years. And that's going to be it. Thank you very much for listening. Have an exciting week. You're all my favourites. Goodbye.